How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews back with a little bit of Fifth Baron Brewing up in his piece in form of the Lucid Dream Breakfast Stout. Yeah, a little bit of breakfast stout up in this piece. What do we expect with the breakfast stout? Because there's nothing on this label besides breakfast stout. It has the name of the beer, Lucid Dream, and it has 8.5% alcohol by volume, breakfast stout, and that's all we got on here. So we don't know what's in it. This comes courtesy of my boy Jacob. This is his brewery. Went from watching me to open up a brewery. How does that shit happen? Label-wise, it's cool. You know, it's purple and got a Pegasus on it. What do you want? What do we expect from a breakfast stout? Honestly, it could be very gentle, like a Founders level breakfast stout, or it could be crazy with maple syrup and coffee and all kinds of things going in between. So we'll see what's happening. But from a distance, we expect more Founders level breakfast stout. So it's got a soft, creamy. When I like my coffee, I look like colored head. Maybe a little bit closer to malted malt ball, but close enough. Nice to tight, compact head, and a soft creaminess to it. Let's see if we can nose. Big roast here. So I'm assuming it's roasted malt and coffee. Not getting a big coffee component, but I'm getting a big, strikingly roast component off of this. There's a little bit of added sweetness to it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's anywhere close to being maple syrup. It's almost like Nutella kind of vibes from this beer, more than anything else. So it's a roasted malt that leans heavily into coffee vibes, because on the nose I'm not quite sure. And then it has this kind of sweet maltiness that errs into like a hazelnutty kind of Nutella thing. So no maple syrup, no kind of huge coffeeness on the nose, even though it comes off coffee-like. The rich, bittering, roasty, toasty, nutty malt. I mean, that's where this thing hangs its hat, on roast, toast, nuttiness. In a very fun way. Could get a little bit too bittering for me. Could get a little bit ashy, even. Not quite sure. Let's actually find out. Cheers. Oh, that's good. It's good. It's a base breakfast stout. I mean, I automatically default to maple syrup when I get the breakfast stout. There's some kind of sweetness in here, but I don't think it is maple syrup. I could almost say, like, I think there's like a slight dollop of like a brown sugar, Belgian candied sugar thing going on in here. Or it could just be the kind of malt they use, but that malt definitely exhibits this big roast component. And that's the other end of things. You think breakfast stout, you think coffee. Definitely getting coffee vibes off this. But it doesn't get like super coffee forward for me. Almost like a really robust, toasty malt that exhibits a ton of coffee kind of vibes. I'm really curious to see what Jacob says about this beer. Or I could look it up, but I don't want to. I want to play by the almost pseudo-mystery beer rules and say, I think this is beer, a core 4 beer. Maybe a dollop of lactose. You know, maybe a dollop of lactose. Maybe a dollop of that to add a little bit of body and a little bit of richness to the beer. But if I was doing this as a mystery beer, I would be like, I hope it would be like, I think this is a beer with coffee roasted malts, like malts that aren't the actual not coffee and not maple syrup added, but malts that exhibit a punch of coffee and exhibit this rich kind of caramelly, kind of not even caramelly, brown sugar sweetness. That's kind of how it comes off for me. So rather than me sitting here and try to dissect and guess as what's in this beer, let's talk about whether I like it or not. I do. 8.5%. I appreciate its lack of sweetness. It does have a big bittering component, so it tamps that sweetness down. But there's just something missing from it. I don't know what it is. And that's kind of a cop-out, because I should be able to be like, I wish I had more of this. I wish I had more of that, but I don't know what it is. I think the roast component is just a skosh too big for me to make it like, just not that I don't want it bitter. I do. I kind of appreciate that bittering with it not being overly sweet, but I think that bittering is just a notch higher than where I'd love it to be. But again, we're kind of splitting hairs here at this point, because in the grand scheme of things, I think it's a fantastically tasty beer. It's something I want to drink. I'd like to see this with that treatment, with maple syrup, with coffee, with like all that kind of new school kind of pastry stout level stuff, a little bit of cinnamon thrown in there, maybe a little bit of chilies, all those kind of things. I think this is a cool base beer that you could fuck with and do all kinds of weird fun stuff with, because probably, let's talk about the best parts of this beer, which is the aggressive roast, I know I kind of talked about it being too big, but you don't get that a lot. So in the grand scheme of things, I think it's a positive more than a negative for me, even though I like it a little bit smaller. The mouthfeel's fantastic. Super soft creaminess. That's why I'm not kind of... wouldn't hesitate to say there's lactose in here, because the mouthfeel's coming off that sultry and that creamily soft. And just the way those malts come off. If there's no coffee in here, let's put it this way. If there's maple syrup and coffee in this beer, I'm like, okay, it's fine. It's a little too bittering for me, a little bit too weak here and there. If this is a core 4 beer, maybe even just a dollop of lactose, then this beer is really, really fun, because you're exhibiting a lot of those flavors you get without having those additions. So my thoughts on this beer are pretty much up to Jacob and what he tells me, or what the internet says. But all in all, a very fantastic beer. Listen, this is 6 out of 6 that I've had from Fifth Baron Brewing. I go into these... How do I put this? When I drink new beers from a brewery like this, something that has a personal connection to me, Jacob, we've talked. We've been friends for quite a while. We've met and drank in real life. The last thing I want to do is poop on somebody's brewery. But it's great. Same vein, I do not want to be nice, because it's somebody I know owns the brewery. And I think I kind of default in the opposite direction when it comes to that. I think I've kind of not judged them harder, but keep that in mind. So I'm trying to be like, okay, be on the straight and narrow. Don't try to pull punches just because you know the person. And this has been a fun journey, man. You guys are making really good beer up there, and I don't think that's me just being nice and putting a shine on it because we're boys. I really do think this is some of the beers I've had there. I mean, this is, out of the 6 I've had, this might be the 5th or 6th favorite one of the bunch you gave me. But it's still better than a lot of stuff I have, and I'm really pumped to end up coming up and visiting the brewery once all this COVID stuff goes down, and make a fucking beer. He said we can collab on a beer, and I'm gonna make a massive beer massif up there in the Quebecs, and do all kinds of fun stuff. But thank you very much, dude, for sending all these off. This is super fun. Very cool to know these beers don't suck. And let's talk about this one. This is one of the better breakfast stout I've had as of late. It's a weird question to answer, because I don't know how to answer it. Is it one of the more better core 4 kind of non-pastry level ones? Yeah. Even in grand scheme of things, it's worthy of being in a conversation. Just moves up that ladder a little bit depending on what's in the beer itself. Value and availability, no idea. Let us know what's what, and leave you with, if you like what we like this. If you like your breakfast stouts, your stouts, your kind of those kind of stouts, but you like them to be bitter and not overly sweet and really well made, get on in Ottawa. So there you go. Another review in the books. Oh, they're in Gastineau, which is just outside Ottawa. That's why I said that. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the review down there. If you want to talk about it, Massive Beers. If you want to check me out doing the social media stuff, Beer Massive. Want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of Fifth Baron Brewing right now. Hope we'll see you next time. Cheers.